Welcome to episode 221 of the XS Noize Podcast, your go-to destination for in-depth conversations with the biggest names in music. I'm your host, Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. On this episode, I'm joined once again by a true icon, John Lydon, returning for his third appearance with more fire and unfiltered insight than ever. If you missed the last episode, I had a fantastic chat with Will Sargent from Echo and the Bunnymen, so check it out. And if you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to follow for free on your favourite streaming platform, leave a rating and drop a comment. Now, let's get into it. As Johnny Rotten, frontman of the Sex Pistols, he didn't just shake the music world, he blew it apart. From the chaos of the Pistols to the boundary-pushing Public Image Ltd, John Lydon has spent a lifetime defying expectations. In this episode, we discuss his take on the Sex Pistols reunion and his latest projects, a no-holds-barred spoken word tour, a new PiL album, and upcoming live shows. Get ready for a raw, honest conversation with one of music's most fearless voices. This is John Lydon on the XS Noize Podcast. So, hi, John. Welcome back for the third time to the XS Noize Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. Being oh so kind.
So, how are you keeping?
It lives.
So, PiL are hitting the road again. You're still shaking things up. So, what's keeping you fired up these days?
Fired up? My God, when have I ever stopped? All right, here's the rundown. I just had a year and a half of pure hell. Deaths and God knows what else going on. But the will to live is still there. And now I live alone. Obviously, the death of my wife, my best friend, and my uncle last week in Ireland. But I have to get on with it. And none of these people, and my mum and dad who died years ago, would ever respect me if I sat back and took it easy. That isn't the way it is. I'm a frightening ball of energy in between lapses of TV watching. And so there it is. I've got to get back out. My band love it. I love it. And we will be writing a new album in between, both the music tour and the solo live talkie events. A lot of work taking on, but that's not an issue. That's a rare delight and a treat. I could have wallowed there into self-pity and delusionment. I find this the better alternative, to face the executioner's block, so to speak, with gusto.
You've called this tour, "This is not the last tour." Is that a defiant statement, or do you genuinely not see the end in sight for PiL?
It turned out that way as a defiant statement, which made us all laugh, but the promoter actually came up with it. And it was just too delicious not to use. And I think it sums up my outlook on life is pretty damn relentless, and hard work doesn't frighten me. And the thing is, it's not repetition here. I'm not doing the same set night after night and just falling on my laurels and being lackadaisical about it. It's a challenge. It's an absolute total challenge, physically and mentally. Love it. It will absolutely help the making of the next album. One, financially, because if we don't tour, we can't get the money to make a record. So there you go. The wheels on the bus go round and round.
You've said that the fan response during your 2024 spoken word tour played a big role in your decision to tour with PiL again. What was it about those interactions that changed your mind?
The talk shows are run in a weird way. I've no script. In fact, I refuse to script it. So what we do is usually an hour or 2 hours beforehand, before I go on stage, is what we call meet and greets, where I'll sit down and people will come in, one or two at a time, sometimes whole families, and we'll have a dialogue. And in those dialogues, I'll learn so much about what people's conditions are and how much more pain, usually, many of them have had to endure in comparison to my feeble amounts. That's a fantastic element. And to see the joy, to say, sad thing to say, but to see the joy of someone being able to unleash their grief upon you. They're not looking for an answer to it. They just want someone to talk to. That's a fantastic privilege. And that's the penultimate to me of all these years that I've found this place, which I love and adore. That's not to say I'm like Dr. Phil. I'm not giving you a one answer cures all here. Just the ability to communicate with me. If you've liked anything I've ever done, now you can see the person that does it and talk to him one-to-one. If you hate everything I've done, well, let me correct you.
Well, how does being up close with an audience like that in that format compared to the raw energy of a PiL gig?
I've always loved it. I've always loved it. PiL is the kind of band that doesn't disassociate itself with an audience. And me as a human being, certainly not ever. That don't mean come running on the stage and fuck about with us. Right? But these are human beings. If anything, if I'm to earn any title in the world of music, then it would be folk artist. I'm doing this for the folk because I'm one of the folk and I'm sharing what my folk sensibility is. It's cultural, yes. It's religion without God. It's opera without the fat lady.
You've spent decades with people thinking they know John Lydon. What's something from your spoken word shows that genuinely surprises them?
I don't know. Yeah, ask them. I tend not to speak on behalf of other people. What I do is speak on behalf of myself and tell the truth as I know it. And there is the rub.
The upcoming tour covers a lot of ground, from intimate club venues to massive festivals. Do you prefer the controlled chaos of your own shows or the unpredictability of festivals?
I wouldn't say my own shows are chaos. They're really exuberant. Yeah. A release, an exclamation of joy to be alive. They're all of those things. That's harder to grasp. In a small theatre, that's easier. Right? Because it's more intimate. On a larger stage, that's harder to grasp. But over the years of doing so many festivals by now, I've managed to find another way of approaching it and not be so reliant on eyeball communication. Because a festival, you're 50 foot away for a start from anything. And you're barely lucky if with my eyesight I can decipher anything going on out there. There's another way of projecting, and you learn that. You could call that stagecraft, right? To project larger, and that's now fun to me over the years, and particularly the last few years, to notice the difference and really enjoy it, to look forward to it not being the same old.
And the tour wraps up in Belfast at the Put in the Fast in Belfast Festival. What are your standout memories from playing in Ireland over the years? I know you've been here quite a lot.
Not quite a lot, very little actually.
In the last couple of years, I mean.
Oh, the last couple of years, yes. We've opened the minds and hearts of the promoters. Let's put it that way. Years and years back, it was very sectarian. It was very difficult to get in to places like the North, because you'd have to be dealing with local politics and or lying religious fuckers that would make life hell on earth. But that's all stopped, right? And so here it comes, bucket loads.
Yeah, big time, because you're sharing the bill with Stiff Little Fingers, a band like the Pistols had a huge impact on punk. What's your take on their legacy?
I always wondered what the name was about. I never got round to asking them, but no, it'd be great fun. They're one of the few outfits out there that aren't wallowing in animosity and jealousy. Eh? They're joyous chaps, and I celebrate their existence.
Yeah, as you mentioned at the start, you've lived through a lot of challenges lately, including the devastating LA wildfires. So how did that experience change your...
Not to mention yesterday, a tornado whizzed through, which was preceded by 4 earthquakes.
Wow, I mean...
It's calamity, man. I'll tell you what it is. It's just my way of looking at things, I suppose. But I see that as Mother Nature's definitely telling me to get off my fucking arse and get out the house before it either burns down or collapses or floats away in a mudslide. Yeah, California, the place you ought to be,
Or maybe it's nature's way. It's karma coming back to you, John, for saying burn Hollywood burn.
Yeah, wow. Well, there was a fab record that got banned in America because we recorded that months in advance, but the week of release, the Hollywood fires started. And so I was accused of capitalizing on other people's misery, which is hilariously not funny. Because at that fire, that came right to my front door. But for the grace of Spielberg's private fire station, me and Nora would have been burnt to death.
You're very lucky.
Yeah, it's an interesting little story, but very true. Yes, he does have his own fire ninnies, and they've got bells on.
You mentioned you're making new music with PiL. Have you started anything? What's the sound? What's the vibe?
Oh, we're going to go full on rockers. This one. Less reliant on technology. Always a useful tool, but full on belters. Be prepared to dance your fucking arse off. I'm definitely going to do Home, and that will give you the vibe of where we're going. Right? Other than that, it's open for debate and discussion in actual full-on rehearsals, which begin at the end of April.
I'm confused, John, because I asked you about the new album. How's that sounding? The one that you're recording?
How would I know? I haven't done it.
I was asking you, have you started?
No, we'll be recording and writing that while on tour.
Right.
That's what tour buses are for. That and masturbation.
And the lineup has changed over time, and now you have a new drummer.
Yeah, we lost old Bruce Smith, pity, but he has other things and issues going on in his life, and he can't do the two at once. So we found a wonderful drummer called Mark, who, to my mind, is ferocious. He hits those things like Ginger Baker, which is a lovely aspect. So we get more into that flamboyant, full-on, ferocious rock that I so love.
Yeah, PiL you've always had great drummers, haven't you?
It's essential. That's the maypole around which us Morris dancers perform.
Are there any bands around today that remind you of PiL's early days in terms of spirit and attitude?
Well, I hope so. I'm not too much listening to much music by other people at the moment because I'm getting ready and trying to get myself fit for this upcoming thing. And what I tend to do is not listen to outside influences, to just stay absolutely in the zone, the PiL zone. Otherwise, it's dissipated energy. I know many bands that seem to just like let their outside influences creep in, and it's to their detriment. They end up sounding very, very weak about themselves, trying to compromise to other currently fashionable situations. No fear of that.
Yeah, I was reading a recent interview you did with Record Collector, and you were talking about some of your music, some of your records, and there was one that really surprised me that you loved, and that was Michael Jackson's "Bad."
God, yeah. There's no bass on that damn album at all. But what there is ferociously thrilling. Reference to Thriller. I like all kinds of music, and when it's done well, then I'm in. And that doesn't mean a good production. Many things I listen to absolutely hopelessly produced badly, but I still feel the essence of it.
But the thing is, all the PiL stuff, and even your solo album, they all sound great. The production on those, it's all great.
But we keep it simple. We base everything around a monitor mix and then a few excursions into exploring the depth of the sound on certain things, but basically keeping it clean. And not the trouble with going into full mix is that the energy of the track and the way it was originally recorded, which is usually 8 tracks, is dissipated with all this sonic resonances that I find that very unhealthy and irritating. I like all my instruments to be very clearly separate from each other, yet cohesively working well together.
I'd like to name some of your albums, and if you can sort of, when I mention them, if you can give me a word or a memory or feeling that comes to mind when I mention them. So we'll start off with Metal Box. I mean, that album was ahead of its time. Do you think today's musical landscape finally understands what you were doing back then?
Well, I'd say everything I've done is ahead of its time. I like to get the record in before delivery date. It's my nature is to be curious and explore sound possibilities. Metal Box was difficult because there was no way that the studios we were using really could have the capacity for the depth of bass we wanted on that record. So something had to give. So, and it was my decision that I wanted the voice to be put into the background to bring the bass out. And I didn't think that was much of a compromise at all. I thought let people just swim in this. The words will catch up with them when relevant. A different approach. Other songs, of course, the voice could be full out and has to be. What's it all about? They scream and then there's no point in burying them words.
And Ja Wobble sounds amazing. In fact, the whole band does on it.
Yeah, and Wobble was learning at the time too. So that's very important to know, because indeed in this industry you're learning constantly, and inexperience it's not a tragedy. It's actually a benefit because you've got less prejudices and less preconceived ideas, so you're more open.
What about Psycho's Path? I mean, it's your only solo album. Does it stand apart from PiL for you, or is it just another extension of your work?
It's obviously an extension. It's not supposed to sound like a PiL record, because indeed it isn't, because I'm not working with my friends. That was a solo venture. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. And the experimenting I could use, not being a proper musician myself, I found that like getting an accordion slinked down the staircase gave me the tones I wanted. They didn't have to be like my dad in an Irish show band playing the accordion. Indeed, I can't because I'm left-handed. So lovely experiment with all that, and some great songs came out of that. Psychopath, the lead song in it is that's about a serial killer called Gacy, and the possibility that all of us have the potential to be serial killers if we follow that particular route. Yeah, the human mind is a very, very manipulative thing to suit your greeds, to suit the 7 deadly sins.
I think The favourite track on the album, I think, Sun. What can you tell me about that track?
Sun. I wanted to evoke that spirit of festivals. When you hear a song that's just the right, the right balance and just easy, and sing along, and it reminds you of sunny days, and when the bands are changing their lineups, and I loved it. My classic route to it was "Life's a Gas" by T-Rex. I heard that at the Oval Festival when the Who were playing with the Faces and Mock the Hoople, etc. That was a great festival when I was young. But they put on Life's a Gas, the DJ, and it thrilled me. The way it sounded over a huge PA. And I wanted In the Sun to be like that. The other one, of course, is Dave Bowie's Memory of a Free Festival. I'm not straying far from the mark, am I? It's a very, very old single that not many people know about, but it's wonderful. The sun machine is going down and we're gonna have a party. Da, da, da. Loved it. Yeah. And so there you go. I'm in that vein. When I'm in a good mood with the song, Sun will be in there.
Great track.
You know, and I use these things as symbols, really. And the moon, I always will refer to if in a depressed or ponderous state. Water flows throughout everything I've ever done. Oceans, I love that. I love the chaos of the ocean.
After 2 decades, you came back with This Is PiL. You know, looking back, what drove you to that creative burst?
Well, that was nearly 18 years of record companies starving me out of existence. They declared that I owed them so much money that they wouldn't release another record until I'd recouped the debt, which meant what? Because if I went out and did a tour, they'd take the money that was raised before I could do the tour. So it was a catch-22 I was in, and that was stifling. The thing that got me out of that, of course, was I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and the Butter campaign, right? And so immediately put that into what was left after paying off the debt, tried to set up our own record label, which we have, and went into writing the new album at that point, and it was great. And I loved that for 3 albums, PiL kept the same lineup. This is why we feel so sad about Bruce. We got to really know each other, which is what I've always wanted, to work completely cohesively and understanding each other on such a deeper level than have a nice day, which can happen.
You got a bit of stick about the butter advert. But
I've got a bit of stick about everything.
You have, well, that's a fair one. You know, you can take it, but you have to do these things. You know, you're able to make a great record out of it.
Well, I fought that off for quite a long while, the butter thing, but it came to pass that as poor old Rambo, may he rest in peace, blessings be upon him, he was the one that convinced me to do it. Look, John, it's butter. You eat a lot of fucking butter. Admit it. And that common sense approach just knocked out to the outfield, any kind of preposterous uprightiousness that I had. You can be too foolish with adopting poison and attitudes. Common sense prevailed, and like I said, the money fucking solved no end of problems.
Looking back, is there a PiL album you feel people still haven't fully understood?
Probably all of them. Is this too much advanced rhetoric and/or expectation and/or despising going on for it to be an easy ride? And so fucking what? As if I care about preconceived notions.
Yeah, you've never stuck to one sound. Was that just to piss off the labels?
No. What a waste of my time that would be. It's my life. I'm ever expanding my knowledge and comprehension of the universe, and that involves far more than 3 chords. As you progress in life, you are supposed to learn more, and you will dabble and experiment as much as you possibly can. That's my comprehension of life, is to keep learning to the day you die. And then you learn it's all a fucking waste of time. But I've got time on it.
Yeah, I think the beginning of your documentary that was released a few years ago, you said at the very start that you're always going to be around.
Around what? I'm quite round at the moment. Some would call it rotund. My wife preferred big bone.
Big bone.
I was very Irish. It's not bad for a German. She was a witty lady, was my lovely Nora.
Yeah, big bone is definitely an Irish one. Last year, Frank Carter and some of the Pistols played live together. Did you have any reaction to that, or was it just noise to you?
Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, you do the karaoke and it goes around. Oh, karaoke. They tried to sing like rubbish with Billy Idol a year before, and rubbish it is. I don't mean to be big-headed, but I will be honest about this. You can't have a Sex Pistols show without John Lydon, who gave you the songs, the lyrics, the image, the presentation, the brashness, like the absolute honesty and integrity of it, and think that that's going to work. What is it? It's like they're polishing a turd here.
Would you have done it if they asked you?
No. They shouldn't be asking. They should be doing what I'm doing. Go out and create new stuff, boys and girls. You've been around long enough. Yeah, you're still fucking hanging on my coattail.
When you look back in the early days of the Pistols, do you ever surprise yourself with the impact you had?
Well, of course, we weren't expecting anything, right? Didn't see no hope in this or put any faith in it at all. Just that was the freedom that I really loved and enjoyed, and I've kept with me ever since. That there was no rule book, so I could write exactly as I was feeling. I didn't have to fit into formats or genres.
I mean, you famously got the gig by signing Alice Cooper's 18. Do you ever wonder how different life would have been if that moment had never happened?
Yeah, it could have been worse if I knew all the words.
There's bound to be moments from the Pistols' history that still make you laugh, some memories, is there?
Most of it was thoroughly enjoyable. That was my first real opportunity to travel the world, meet interesting people, and discuss them. And I broadened my horizons, but it also tunnel visioned my attitudes to like not be deflected quite so easily, but to find a purpose and a point to all this. And it did that. I went for an education system that's spent most of its energy telling me I had no hope and no future. And lo and behold, I found one, and I was going to damn well respect the natures and the gods that gave me such an opportunity and not tear it to pieces by trying to fit into a format. And so here we go. Here I am. And if I'd have gone the other way, you wouldn't be talking to me.
And Malcolm McLaren, he's seen as either a mastermind or a chancer. In your words, what was he really like to work with?
I think it's best summed up when he ran for the job of Lord Mayor of London. And I was asked about that at the time. And I said, he's a coward and he's a wanker and he'll pull out when it counts. And lo and behold, that's exactly what he did. Because it comes to that point. Are people going to vote for you? Have you got anything really going on in there? And he didn't. And so he had to run away. It's all sham of the man, you know? An empty vessel.
I think you told me before that there was a time that he was actually going to be frontman of the band. Is that right? When you left?
He thought so.
Imagine that.
Yeah, no, they didn't like me. And he went and took secret singing lessons. And that's all well and fine, you know. But he couldn't write. None of them could. Right? They couldn't put a string of verses together, and that was the stumbling block. And that's when he recommended his singing teacher to me. And that didn't go down very well at all. Her name was Tonya Labret. I remember it distinctly because at my first lesson was her on the piano going, oh, and I was supposed to what? Sound like that. Well, fuck off. I hate your voice. I don't ever want to be like that. No, you have to learn show tunes. And imagine Johnny Rotten if he'd have turned into that load of gusto. Right? So no, I stuck with it, and I stuck to my grounds and my principles, and all the betterment for that in the band. There it goes. They haven't got anyone now. They haven't got anyone with this kind of bottle or this kind of insight, and I feel sorry for them for that. They should be lining up with someone of let's say some fucking guts in them, some energy, some capability, rather than a shallow showman. Point. I don't understand. Why haven't you got new stuff out there? Why haven't you recorded? What are you doing? And saying this now, they'll no doubt be reading this and go, yeah, he's right, we should put him in the album. Because believe me, if I didn't give them the idea, it wouldn't occur to them. Right? And God bless them. And I love them for that. And I love that period in my life. And I've got no regrets about that. I just don't like what they're trying to topsy-turvy into now. That's it. Yeah. I recommend a gay cruise ship for them. They'd be spectacular. And we could call it Your Anus Travels.
They'll be writing that down when they hear this.
I think such a cruise does exist, actually.
You've lived as Johnny Rotten and John Lydon. Is there ever a moment when you feel one overshadows the other?
No, come on, it's the same person, isn't it? Johnny Rotten was a nickname. Still John Lydon in there was a nickname because I had such bad national health teeth. And that's about the difference of it. Of course, I was using it, like the platform of going on stage and being particularly bravado. I'm rotten and you're not. But that's my nature anyway. I'm naturally confrontational, and that's to this day. I'm also naturally an extremely pleasant, nice, cuddly person. It depends on, if somebody attacks me with offensive words, they're going to get a severe tongue lashing. That's just how it is. And I'm fully capable of that. I'm also fully capable of having a proper conversation. Originally, that was very difficult because we had a media that were absolutely opposed to us. And God bless them, they didn't realise that they were our most favoured nations in our operation.
Yeah, I mean, you've never held back from speaking your mind, whether in lyrics or interviews. And in today's climate...
I think the beauty of human nature is that we have language. And any government or society or institution that tells you can't say this, you can't use that word, is the enemy right there. This is our finest achievement, is language. Telling outright lies is not acceptable, right? That's crime. But we are all welcome to freedom of thought. It's just if you have those thoughts in front of me and they're ill-conceived, I will shred you to pieces. That's just the way it should be.
Yeah, but artists these days have less freedom to say than compared to when you started.
I know. It's such a shame, isn't it? Because debate is the most delicious gift. That comes after the language. We can now use the language to debate different points of views and issues. That's so incredible. I don't see donkeys doing it quite so well, but every now and again, there does come along a donkey, it's called a politician, who will,
Whether you're like it or not, John, you're part of music history. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely all right with that. It hasn't ended yet. And until that day comes, well, who knows? Who knows? I might get fed the fuck up in a month's time. I can't predict what the elements will bring to me around me. But for now, I'm ferociously dedicated to what I do. I don't know how many more tragedies I can put up with in my life, but I seem to be able to bear the most savage woe was the loss of Nora. I didn't think I'd be able to get over that, and indeed I never will now. I realise that it's important that I understand and comprehend that was necessary by some force or whatever that is greater than me. Life comes with death. Accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Hard one. Hard as hell. But there it is. And it can only continue in that vein. But to not give up on my own life is I think the greatest gift I can give back to whatever made or created me. We're going, thank you for that test. What's next? That's a religion I'm talking there, without religion. We're born for a purpose. We might not know what that is, but to savagely indulge in suicidal activities is that's never going to work out well for you.
Absolutely not. And how are you? You're just taking day to day, is pouring yourself into the tour and the spoken word and the creating a new album. Is it helping you along?
Yeah, well, I don't use work as an avoidance of. I carry the two equally. It's just the way that is. My backpack is not quite full. There's a few more bricks to put in it, no doubt. But I'm making room for that. Right now, I can't imagine anything worse happening to me than the loss of Nora. That's absolutely fundamentally tragic. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows what gifts are awaiting me in the future? But as always, I look at them as things I'll just have to get over and keep fighting. These things are put there for apparently some kind of logical reasoning. I'm thinking. The challenges, yes, life's a challenge. Don't surrender easily. Last man standing. Proper stuff.
You're due some, good luck and positivity, John, with Rambo and Nora, and then having to deal with the fire issue in LA. Hopefully things start looking up for you.
Well, as I said yesterday, we had a tornado whiz through LA. And You got to laugh, right? And there were 4 earthquakes that preceded it, right? Minimum, 3-4 pointers, but enough to knock your tea off the table. And that's kind of like, now it's laughable to me. It's like, I know what's going on. These are tests. Right?
Mhm.
It's important that I understand that. And that's what life is. It's an endurance course. We got to keep on fighting to the end of the road.
But does after everything that's happened, do you not sometimes think about like moving back to London?
What on earth for? The world is my oyster. That's how I view it. Right?
Mm.
I can dot around anywhere I like. And of course, my passport is PiL, and I'll be where the work takes me. But as for living in London permanently, no, it's like this. It's strange, but when you move out of what you know and are very familiar with, you can never go back. It's never going to be the same, ever. Because time's moved on for not only them and the people you love and respect, but for yourself also. Your paths have widened. And it's very essential to me that I understand that. So I have to, like the gypsy that was in my father, I have to make good of the fields I land in.
And how do you spend your time at home these days? What's a typical day for you?
Painting.
Yeah,
that's what I do. I find that relaxing. But generally speaking, swimming, because I love it. Oh, and I love diving and all of that. Again, the oceans. And then trying to watch something on TV. But I'm finding less and less of that interests me. I've got over the Google box being interesting. And I say, is that age or whatever it is? But it's like I've indulged too much in that lazy viewing point in my life that now something else is afoot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely one for following where my nature leads me.
Last one, John. If PiL never played another tour after another show after this tour, what would you want people to remember most? Not just about the music, but about you.
That I lied about this is not the last tour.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's a perfect way to end it.
Peace and love, sir.
All right, John. Thank you again.
I waffled on a bit there.
No, it's all good. It's great to speak to you again. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
There you go. That's why I like these face to face. That's really important to me.
Yeah.
May the road lies with you, and your enemies always be behind you. They scatter, batter, and shatter.
We'll end with that. All right, John. Take it easy, mate.
No. It's not possible. You know that. Cheers.
Well,